All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 8 of B483, the Mu Mate case analysis discussion. We'll dive right into this. So as Leanne was saying, looking at this case analysis, these prompts, discussion prompts, we're not exactly sure the format this should take, but we're just going to proceed with this as we have with all our previous discussions, kind of just go down through the questions here.
All right.
So review the summary data from the negotiation results. Now, I took that to be the additional sort of added case study that was in the announcement and the details on the 2 additional offer sheets that they received. Am I missing something there?
I guess as far as results go, that would be the only.
Yeah. So unless I'm missing something,
yeah.
That's
the only thing I think know
of. So which team had the highest pre-money value? Lowest? Where did your team fall? Kind of confusing. I only saw the 2 pre and post money valuations. I didn't see the one for the VEC firm discussed in the main case. There was like the 10 million and the 7.5 million post money valuations.
Where did you read that?
Let me pull it up again real quick.
On the additional reading, they had that chart on the 3rd page. It talked about the pre and post for the Astoria and the Prosper, but I never saw anything for the DPV.
Right. Yeah, I did not see where DPV. In fact, I'm thinking within the framework of the case, they hadn't yet received a offer sheet.
That was the context of it for sure.
Right. So there's only the 2 pre and post money valuations that I saw there, which were in that other ancillary case. I'm just pulling that up right now.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I'm doing homework, guys. Sorry. Group meeting. And there it's laid out pretty clearly. The higher pre-money valuation is with Astoria Partners.
Yeah, the 7.5.
Yeah. And lowest would be Prosper Funds, presumably the other. Yeah.
And these were like the alternatives to consider.
Right. Possibly, possible sort of negotiation leverage in the conversation with Master or Maxwell, I guess, or DPV, I mean. Astoria Partners.
Well, I guess they valued it way less than I did.
What did you have it valued at?
When I did my, just following that, the multiples that they'd given for the last 12 months. Yeah, sure. So for which I just did so they were comparing themselves to Odwalla, Honest Tea, and Naked Juice. So I did their average. And then I looked at a few possible valuations. I mean, and then these are all like millions. So, I mean, if you just valued it based off of 2011, then yeah, it was like $2 million. But then if where they were hinting at the trying to look forward and actually getting a valuation based off of projected sales, then there was kind of this, I did just off of 2012's projection, it'd be like 20 million. If you took an average of 2011 through 2015, you get about 50 million. And then if you did just an average of the projecteds of 2012 to 2015, get like almost 62 million.
So yeah, this kind of brings up an interesting question, because where the VC firm is investing in 2011, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they go in, they value the company. I mean, I guess that's the question, is how much weight do you put into the projections and the current valuation of the company? Because and you even see it with some of the other models we've run where that accelerates over time. So those Series B rounds are, orders of magnitude higher than the Series A round.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull that back up.
I felt it played into.
Well,
hello?
No, go ahead.
I felt that those numbers played into pretty well into like what they said DPV does. I mean, the loan 1 to 5 million, and their intention really even after like second or third round is really to only have like 30% ownership. So like on mine, I followed those other formulas and I gave arbitrary share values or share numbers, share counts, right?
Right.
Just to go with that illustration. But so I just went like, if they invested 5 million into what's projected to be worth 50 million, I mean, they start off getting 10% of it, and that's into first round. So you figure after a couple more rounds of higher investments, like they could easily get their 30%.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it like seemed to play into the way that the dialogue it was talking, but
well, then also the amount they're looking for is 2.5 million. So
yeah,
and
my thing got into the idea. It's like, yeah, they figured they could do it with 2. They should ask for the 5. Obviously, if they just get the 2, then they still get what they figured they could do it with. But if they get the 5, then they should just be more aggressive with making sure they've got the infrastructure to move forward. I think.
What's your post money valuation here? They put in 5 million, and that's 10%. That would come out to the 50 million.
Mm-hmm. And I ran it in a way to where it's like I could see the highlighted orange. These are boxes that I could like fill with.
Manipulate that.
I could manipulate it. So I was projecting the post value for 50 million.
And working backwards from there.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you drop that down to 40 million, for example, it ups their ownership share.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it would up it if I changed. So I left the shares that they were buying.
Oh, I got
so, you. But see, I did that because you can do things like, I always forget where it's at. But okay, so you could do what if analysis, right?
Oh, right.
Goal seek. So I was saying like, hey, I want to set. Basically, I want to set this to them still giving 5 million by changing this one. So then, yeah, if they gave 5 million, still they'd own 12%, and they would have bought 71,000 shares based off of the.
Oh, gotcha. So it's kind of a confusing question. Then it's just like I'm not like. Seems like there's supposed to be more analysis here than just looking at the case study and picking the one that has the lowest. But do you want to?
I think that's what it. I think it was cut and dry asking that question.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Choose teams that showed extremes in performance and ask what happens that led to the results. So we kind of talked about that a little bit with your analysis, Brando.
The teams is what's throwing me off.
Right, yeah. I'm like, is there a set of instructions I missed somewhere?
That's what I keep thinking, and that's why I think this was made for like on campus or something.
Yeah. It's almost like this is a project, and it would have been a fun assignment too, because presumably in class they split up the class into fake VC firms and had them propose different offers.
Yeah.
Which would have been fun, but okay, so Brando, kind of talked about that. I don't know if you want to write kind of a summary of your analysis there. Yeah, it's all right. I can probably just sort of summarize it briefly.
Extremes in performance and let me change my.
Can you explain the multiplier that you used? I was confused reading the case study because I got so wrapped up in the revenue, or sorry, the EBITDA multiplier, but that's not what they were talking about in this case. It was a different.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, they were doing LTM sales, right? So it's last 12 month sales. So, and then I think actually they had another multiplier, but I don't think we had that statistic. Either we didn't have that statistic on Mumate, or I just chose to just go with the one. I mean,
yeah,
go with one multiplier and oh yeah, there was the LTM EBIT, but then that one didn't have numbers for all the 3 companies that they compared themselves to. And
okay.
so that's why I didn't go with that. And then yeah, so that's why I went with because at least the LTM sales numbers, you didn't have LTM EBIT for Honest and Naked. And I don't know, generally when I go ahead and come up with numbers, I like to just play with the averages.
And they're all, I just had a thought
You
that
just want to go to IKEA later?
they're all like they're all comparable ratios, aren't they? Like I know your EBIT multiplier and your revenue multiplier are. Well, anyway, no, I can look into that on my own. Okay, choose a student from the DPV side and ask, what are your goals for this negotiation? So let's put ourselves in the shoes of the VC firm.
Well, actually, just to answer, I think where you were going with your question, just real quick, is if you're looking into it, the numbers could vary quite a bit depending on the actual margins in which those companies operated with. Right.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think about that. Like
margins, if one company could have had lower sales, then like way better margins, and then then their EBIT multiplier could probably change in a certain way that would look to benefit them maybe over the other one. Or
okay, yeah, yeah. So that makes a lot. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So depending on which, you're going to be motivated in different
what you as the VC firm care about the most, or if you really wanted to, you could compare both and then find that like middle ground of which one,
Yeah. No. Okay. Right. So what I was thinking was from the other side, which is that all those multipliers, you could compare each of them to each other within the framework of the company, and working backward from there. But yeah, depending on where your performance is better, you might be motivated to seek one multiplier versus another. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah.
So more confusing questions here. Choose a student from the DPV side and ask, what were your goals for this negotiation? The valuation of X ? I mean, so
I really feel that we like there's some sort of document or instructions that was not included.
I think so.
For this one, when I was doing it, I did X as what you would value the company as.
That's kind of what I'm thinking also.
So valuation of Mumate?
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Thanks, Liam. Yeah, Hillary.
That's how I did it when I was trying to do this. So that's what I did it as.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes sense for us to try to move forward too. Like that seems like the best, in my opinion, to go with too. I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
So I kind of operated from the assumption that you'd be getting that $2.5 million investment, and
Now this is choose a student from the DPV side at least. So idea would be how much are you willing to pay? I guess it's the way we would answer.
How much are you willing to invest in the company?
Yeah.
Well, but if they're looking for 2.5 million, and then there was the option with one of them where you get that in 2 tranches, but basically at the end of the day, it's 2.5 to 3 million is what the portfolio company would want.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question is, what's the post-money valuation of that company? Isn't that kind of what we're getting at here?
Yeah, how much? Yeah, it's from the angle of DPV. How much do you think Mumate is actually worth?
Right, and obviously, the lower you think it's worth, the greater the VC firm's ownership stake
would be based on if they're like, we're going to only invest this much, we're only going to invest the 2.5 million. Yeah, the lower you value the company, the more you get. But for mentality's sake, I mean, that's just one thing to remember. Like, they're showing that the habit of DPV was that they only plan on owning 30% at most by time they're done with like 3 rounds of investing.
That's right. Yeah, that's good. I'm still like a long way off from the $50 million, but not because I didn't take the approach you did yet. I was just looking at the valuations of the 2 other VC firms and kind of playing off that.
That's what I did.
Yeah, see, I didn't even read that until I was done. And which may have changed my answers, or I might have just decided that I don't know. I don't know what I would have done otherwise, because I did not read it until I was done, turned in my analysis.
Yeah. I'm actually, my analysis I'm not going to probably get done until later this week. But I guess, Leanne, Hillary, do you guys have I was going to say, like, take the half 1.5 million Series A round, like offer that initial round, value the company at like 6 million. So 6 or 7.
I think in mine I valued the company, I think, 5.5 million.
With the full 2.5.
Yeah, with the full 2.5.
So you'd have like a 50% or 45% stake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I was around the same. I valued it a little bit less though, so. But.
Did you do 2.5 million? You said.
That's what I did.
I'm just gonna whip mine up real quick here.
So yeah, it's 45% ownership, 5% to Jeremy Dank, and then 25% each to Maxwell and Hannah.
Which isn't too bad, but
we have to change that, because in the case study it does say 20 to 30%.
Now, I guess, I mean, you could go from the angle they figure maybe they're going to try to get other firms to invest a big amount, in which case it's like theirs is dropping. But I felt that they were talking about this company as being like the only one to invest, in which case.
Right, that's kind of how I took it too. So I would have to change my numbers. I haven't submitted my analysis yet, so.
Yeah.
I can change that.
So, I mean, yeah, to try to bring it down, let's see, because then you could look at 5 million, because this does, let's see. See if my goal seek works this way. Yeah, see, because at a projected value of 5.5 million, they could only invest about 1.1 million and they'd still own 20. You probably would have to go up closer to, what were the 2 companies in the, let's see, there was.
One was like 7.
10 and
5.
one was 10 and 7. One was 7.5. So if we just like kind of just went with 8, just to 8. Oh, it's funny. It actually hardly changes it. Oh, because it's 20% of the shares period. Get it. So yeah, so 8 million would get 1.6. So then, and that's if you're figuring they're going for that whole 20 from the start, that between, because it was like 20 to 30 at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like they're ready to go in with 2.5 right off the bat. I mean, both the other companies are coming in right at that point. Huh.
So basically 12.5 million if they, yeah. So it, like if you wanted the idea that your 2.5 million is worth 20% of the company, then it would have to, you'd have to project it, you'd have to figure it's worth 12.5 million.
If you put in 2.5.
If you put in 2.5 million expecting to own 20% when it's over. See, and then so thinking that they're going to progressively work up, going on the idea that it's just the one. If we went with, say, an ownership of 15%, let's see, we're changing this.
And if they invest 1.5 million at 15% ownership stake, value it at 10 million post money.
What was that?
$1.5 million initial investment, 15% ownership stake of the company, and a $10 million post money valuation was kind of where I was at. With the option to add $1 million in a year to get that ownership stake. I guess that would bring valuation up to 11 million. And
Wait. This one. Oh yeah, because it would make that number higher if you wanted it to own less. That's right. I wasn't even thinking. Never mind. I was thinking backwards for a second. I was like, what if they only wanted to own 15%? But then, of course, it'd mean they were valuing it even higher.
oh, right. Yeah, what happens if you drop total investments down? Or that's a calculated field, right?
Yeah, but what do you want to change? What you were saying, total investment, drop it to what?
1.5 million. Oh, right.
So,
yeah, we'll see. Would it be the I7?
It's either one. It's I8 depends on it works out either way for this. By changing,
Would it be projected value?
to own 15%, yeah, that's just under 10 million. So that's what you had. You said, right?
That's what I had. That's where I was starting.
Yeah.
Start there. Option in a year to increase the investment an additional $1 million.
See, it's so close to 10 million. I'm sure if I just wrote that as 10 million, that, yeah, see, it didn't even.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of different ideas here. Do we want to? Are we bringing you down from 50 million, Brando, or?
Well, it says choose a student, so you throw
I like
anyone you're up there. I
kind of put in the 12.5 million post money valuation with 2.5 million invested at 20% stake as a good jumping on point. That gets them all the money they want up front.
Yeah, I felt that was a good.
Yeah, I think that's good.
That would be the highest. That would be the highest valuation of any of the offers, right?
Well, it would be higher than those other two offers, yeah.
Now, internal rate of return. Honestly, I am completely in the dark on this one. Other than it seems like there's some benchmarks.
Especially since we don't know what Y is.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't, because the rate of return, like, are they figuring how likely it is that they'll see? I don't know. I just don't even. I feel that we shouldn't even answer that question, but that's just me.
We'll just put 6 question marks.
Because I mean, yeah, and then I guess when you're recapping, just say like that we're realizing that there must be instructions that were not given to us.
Yeah. But the next question, I think we can all comment on.
Yeah, I had an opinion on that. I
was really fascinated with the dynamics of this. But yeah, go ahead, Brandon. What were you thinking?
Oh, you can go first. I do have an opinion on that as I was agreeing.
Yeah, so the idea of the sort of the resistance to both founders getting a board seat was that was surprising to me, but then it kind of made sense with the, just ultimately those board seats are what controls the voting stake on any decisions in the company. So that's I was just kind of surprised. To me, it seems like an afterthought up until this case, but it is interesting how much it swings the valuation of the company. Like the Prosper Fund seems to have acquired an additional 15% stake in the company, just by throwing in the additional board seat for the second founder. That seemed to be the trade-off that they were making there. So for the offer we just put together, I think that I would either want a 5th member on the board to offset the votes of the 2 founders, or only one of the founders have a board seat. And I wonder if there's a way for the 2 founders to just have a half vote. That's probably not a thing, but
I guess it would be it could be a bylaw, of course.
Yeah.
So it would be while founders are still on the board, their two votes count as one, but it'd be
right. Yeah, I guess it would problems with if they weren't unanimous or something.
Yeah. So what did I see? Oh, totally. Okay. Interesting thing that I did see though. This morning as an example, I found out so totally separate from ever even deciding on what I decided on here. The fire department in Northern Idaho that I used to volunteer with, they apparently about 2 years ago, they merged on some levels, like on every level but financial, which was interesting. They merged with a nearby district's it's department, but fire district, right? Anyways, so this fire department and this fire district, they merged together. And so the fire department from the city of Sandpoint, they ended up putting a board together. And so the board was 5 people. It was 2 people from the city council of Sandpoint, and then 2 people from the fire board for the district. And then 1 person that was one just civilian. Right?
Total just off the street civilian.
Well, I'm sure it's someone who'd still run for the board seat, but yes, right.
But not a fire specialist
not necessarily a fire specialist, right? I mean,
interesting.
And then I'm sure when running for the position, because boards like that, it's definitely going to be something that it would be probably voted on by
Mm-hmm.
it would be a county vote. I'm sure. It didn't go into those details, but
Oh,
I'm sure something like that, like it would be a county vote for like who's the civilian that sits on this board. But anyways, so then of course in that regard, person with that expertise probably would make themselves look better.
but is it
In the end,
kind
I
of
saw
there
this-
to represent the taxpayer or something?
I'm sure it was to represent taxpayer, and then it also would be a good tiebreaker if you really had like these two sides that just could not agree, right? They had equal voting power. These two, the fire department and the fire district basically had the equal voting power, and then you had like this one, essentially a taxpayer that would end up, breaking tie votes.
Which actually brings up another question now that you're mentioning it. But yeah, keep going.
Oh, well, I just thought that is what I thought was interesting. I just found that out this morning. Like, I was reading, I saw that their name had changed, and so I like looked into it, and then I just like had found that out, and I thought it was interesting, and it applies to what we're doing now. Is
it's making me wonder how you even have this like even members vote a board that Prosper funds.
Because what happens when you have a tie?
Right. Yeah. No,
Right.
I didn't think of that before.
That actually makes a lot of sense to do that.
Yeah. Well, and then that's how we do like our Senate, right? The Senate, if they have a tie, it's the vice president, they break the tie or like things like that, to where we.
Okay.
And I didn't think about it at all. Like my actual first proposition was this idea that when DPV came in at 10% ownership, they would have a seat on a 4-person board, right? So it's like at least 25% of the vote. But I totally didn't even think about any tie-breaking type situations or anything like that either.
Which seems like it's maybe it's in the bylaws of the board charter or something that would explain how an equal vote
How you handle
between 4
ties,
members would. Okay.
I'm sure it would either be decided that a certain position has like at least a slightly more weighing vote in those scenarios only or whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because it's like a partnership. So how much of it are you like trying to protect your own sort of stake and share in the company? How much of it is bringing in the right? Because the board isn't just there to selfishly guard the financial interests of the investors, but it seems like it's also a body that helps coach and direct and give guidance,
Yeah.
So,
well, and I kept coming from a standpoint of you have these two co-founders that currently they still really care about the actual like the values of like their actual, they have ethical things that they care about, I guess would be the potential word for that. Like they want their product to be a certain quality. There you go. And so I just kept thinking from that standpoint and thinking from them, like, they do have this interest in growing soon, and so I just kept thinking like on their ability to keep some ownership. And I knew probably my answers were like hopeful kind of answers. Because I guess like the way that I looked at it, I was like, okay, in the beginning, they donate enough to where they have 10%, they get 25%. So DPV would have like 25% representation in the board. And then essentially by the time they get up to 30% ownership, it'd be a 7-person board where they have 2 members directly from DPV, which would give them 30% of the voting in that regard too. So I didn't go into detail on how you would decide the other 5 members of the board, though. I didn't even get into that.
I think I'm going to propose then a 5-person board. So we're doing this is the highest valuation of the 3 offers that have been put up. 20% ownership share, so the smallest ownership share of the 3 offers. And a 5-person board with two members from the VC firm, 2 founders, and then 1 sort of mutually agreed upon additional, sort of like your civilian member on the fund.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I like that.
All right.
So I think as a founder, sorry, things talking. As a founder, I would definitely want my say. So I think having both founders on there would be important for me.
Yeah. Oh, I've got that written out there. If that works.
Yeah, that looks good.
How
I thought you were going
important-
to try to say mutual, but you said Mimate. I'm like, what? And now, okay, it makes sense what you said.
I was trying to copy the format they were using. How important is this deal to DPV? Once in a lifetime, pretty good, or pass? It seems hard to put this in context. Or maybe I just didn't read it carefully enough.
Well, from what I understand, this is kind of what they do is terms like this, from what I understood. So I don't think it's necessarily like a once in a lifetime.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
pretty good. I don't think it's one that they want to pass on because they have proven that they do have a demand for their product and people want it, and they have already grown quite a bit. So I don't know why they would pass on it.
Now this Mimate is right, sort of in line with the typical company's DPV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's good enough.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, choose a student from the Mimate side. Ask, did the co-founders see things the same way, or were you focused on other interests? Remember those negotiations we had on Tuesday? Where just reflect back on that.
Yeah.
Write down in order of importance. Okay, so I guess let's just rank these in order of importance. Deal terms, pre-money valuation, board composition, option pool. How do differing priority? Okay, so of these four things, deal terms, pre-money valuation, board composition, option pool. For me, I think I would put deal terms 1, pre-money valuation 2, board composition 3, and option pool 4.
I would personally, I would have swapped the pre-money and the board composition with
board composition 2.
Because just yet again, just because like it really stated their definite concern of their ability to continue to have decision making power.
Yeah, I agree with that because they did seem concerned about that. She wanted because the founder, she was the one that created it, so she wanted her to have a say.
Yeah.
So are we fine with deal terms first? To me, that's kind of global and it kind of covers everything. That's why I put it number 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
1, and I follow on board composition. So option pools, honestly, I get what it is, but to me it doesn't. I just put pre-money valuation higher, partially because I don't feel like I understand option pool very well.
Option pool had to do with your management and with your management, like setting aside shares for your management, so then you can actually show appreciation on that angle.
Right, you bring in new people, and they get a ownership stake in the company right off the bat.
So
how that would factor into the negotiations or whatever, I just couldn't quite grapple with.
Typically, and I totally didn't even think about this until I had read it, and it just totally reminded me, is typically one of the terms that usually comes from the VC investor is that it's like, hey, we're investing this much money, but you need to set aside X amount of shares for your management. It's just a tactic, it seemed like, from VC firms. So
that's interesting.
Usually a demand from them.
Yeah, it's like, and I wonder if that's just because it's just an oft overlooked thing.
Probably.
When people are starting a company, they don't think about.
Yeah, they're not thinking about the hundreds of people they're hiring that their big motivation is going to be a cut.
So how do differing priorities affect this type of negotiation? Who has the upper hand, DePage or Mimate? I'd say, to me, I think Mimate has the flexibility to go so many different directions on this. So I wouldn't call it an upper hand, but I do think, to me it feels like they kind of have more negotiating power and leverage in this.
Yeah, they have those 2 other offers that DuPage doesn't know about.
Two other offers, and they could go get a bank loan, or they could try and do fundraising through angel investors. So
or they could decide not to go, national as quick as they're thinking about it.
Right. Yeah. So to me, ultimately, that kind of puts it with them to kind of negotiate until they get the deal they like.
Okay, so differing priorities, though. So like that would be the rate of growth, or differing priorities. So like you could have, well, I guess, or just the basic answer is it affects, differing priorities would affect how much money you feel that you need to start with.
Affected.
Yeah, it was effective. Sorry, I thought you were going to type something else. Sorry.
Affected by your.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Ask the Mumate side, how did Astoria and Prosper's term sheet affect your negotiation strategy? I think they gave us a basis for post money valuation. That's kind of what I took from them. They gave me insight into the board, the negotiation of the board seats. One thing was the sort of pressure to hire a new CEO. We see that kind of rear its ugly head again from that prior case.
Well, what was that? Sorry.
The Astoria partners sort of implied.
Oh, the new
expectation
CEO.
of a new CEO, yeah.
Yeah.
Which really just that to me just sounds like something I would be really resistant to as a founder of a company who had a business background and was I mean, it just seems like it's not necessary in this case.
Mm-hmm.
How that affects your negotiations with PDC, I don't know, but that's kind of what I took from those offer sheets, term sheets.
Yeah, I don't like when they want to put in a new CEO, because to me they haven't even really seen what the current CEO is doing or how they do it. So maybe in the terms you could negotiate maybe in a few years a new CEO if this one's not working out, but to just come in and say I want a new CEO, I don't think that should be a thing.
Prosper, I'm trying to think what the Prosper I liked. And there's some other sort of intangible issues with the story. Or actually, it was, which one of them was having trouble raising funds? Oh, yeah, Astoria. It's rumored to be struggling to raise its next funds. That seemed like, I don't know, I just wouldn't be too excited about getting into a business relationship with a company who might have other preoccupations. I mean, they're talking about differing priorities. If Astoria starts to really feel the heat from not being able to impress investors, that's really going to start to affect their decision making on the board and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Prosper, I'd say for the cons on Prosper, they much larger.
Well, yeah, they were planned on owning 40%.
Yeah.
Oh, so then there's a pro of Astoria, smaller. I'll add that myself.
Equity stake. Pros of Prosper is 2 founders on board.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess a con with Prosper is that they don't have a packaged goods background.
Mm.
Although to me, I think if you're profitable and interesting, then people will learn about your business, and I mean your partners are gonna get a crash course in the packaged goods industry so that wouldn't worry me too much. And I guess the other advantage to Prosper is the additional $500,000 in capital. So pros and cons for the Angels.
Angels usually go for less ownership too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is time consuming.
Time consuming, and also
Do they even demand boards usually? I mean, I guess sometimes maybe, but Angels don't necessarily demand a board though either, right?
I think that's kind of the implication of they're sort of no strings attached a little bit. Just pay me back someday. But
I think that was mentioned at the end of the case study
specifically
that they don't demand a board and they have far less ownership.
they spell the word guaranteed. It's one that I've never been able to.
Just start spelling it. It's GUGA.
GUA.
Yeah, there we go. You did enough.
And we double spell check that.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. Guaranteed.
Double guaranteed.
Yeah.
Well, no, sorry,
No worries.
not guaranteed. So it's a double negative. It's worse. Okay. How did the VCs go about valuing Mumate? Yeesh. Yeah. I did not do my homework for that.
What VC? What exit value were they expecting?
Yeah.
What was which one expecting?
Yeah.
Well,
I think this is the. I'm gonna go with this. Let's see, what exit value? How much money did they?
how much money did they need to receive in order to get 5 to 10 times their investment?
See, I think this. I mean, we could come up with hopefully quick arbitrary numbers, but this is yet again. It would have been a group that was the
right.
That played as the VC.
Right, we can just make up scenarios where $2.5 million investments, depending on which multiplier you're using, you need to generate X revenue to get, what, $250 million? Or is it? I guess $25 million would be a 10 times increase on your initial investment.
Yeah. Well, okay, and this is what's okay. I'm sorry to throw this wrench on it though, but I mean, no investor is going to just do the one round either though. Like it would be the idea is they're expecting to spend a couple more times and then have an exit afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see what kind of
million. And presumably they'd have to spend a few more times, like the capital needs for.
Yeah, well, at least a couple more. Yeah. You see, we don't have.
So the last 12 months. Well, can't we just assume they do like an IPO and just use the EBITDA multiplier? Just quick and dirty.
Well, we'd have to go with how much did they invest, but yeah, I mean, we could run with these numbers because these acquisitions actually, and that's probably one thing I did kind of wrong, was acquisitions would be when a VC actually is getting out.
Right.
So, you've got Ottawalla at 182 million, Naked Juice at 450 million, and Honesty at 108. So, like I said, I'm always the averages guy. So, you're looking at like $250 million.
All right, let's go with that. So that's your exit.
So, and then they would own, we could kind of go backwards. So 250, say that they owned their 30% because it said they typically only plan on having 30. So 1.3. So then they'd be getting 75 million back.
So that's more than
75 million back. Well, then keep working backwards. So
divide that by 10, that would be a $7.5 million.
$7.5 million totally invested. Yeah.
That would take up 3 rounds of investing. That would be exactly 3 rounds of investing at 2.5 million per round.
Yeah. So let's do that.
Kind of works out nice.
Oh, I should probably give that. It's online. There you go. How much money did they receive in order to get
75 million?
So 75.
Assuming 3 rounds of investing at 2.5 million per round.
All right. Bam.
What share of the equity would that dollar amount equal? 30%, right?
Yeah, that was 30%.
What other means did VCs use to value the company? Share your spreadsheet and talk us through them.
Okay.
Delete. No.
And honestly, yeah.
Sorry, we never saw that part.
What have you learned about bargaining tactics? No, they should not.
No.
So should Mumate disclose that they have other offers?
Oh,
yeah,
heck no.
actually.
No.
No.
Wait, not at all? Like, disclosing that you have other offers just simply says, hey, we can go somewhere else.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Not disclosing what the offers are.
So like the details of the offer.
Right, but the question, should Mumate disclose that they have other offers? I think they should.
Yeah.
Well, then you get into, because then it gets into the next question about hardball tactics. But, I mean, yeah, it does make sense because you want to make sure that the company's not just like...
Now, do hardball tactics make sense in a negotiation like this? I don't think so.
Well, that is a hardball to be like, I got another offer.
No, I don't think it's hard.
It is playing hardball.
That is. Yeah, because otherwise you'd just be like, this sounds really
Like,
good.
this is a great offer. I'll take it.
But if you're playing hardball, you're like, oh, well, someone else is offering me this, and you're offering me.
I thought
this.
hardball tactics were like a lot more like twisting the arm. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
But aren't you twisting the arm if you're like, I have another offer?
Well, that's more just saying, I guess. Yeah, if you're just trying to like force them to come back with something better just by saying, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's varying
like, force them
degrees
to
of
come
hardball,
back.
but I mean,
Yeah.
but
By that measure, though, and I agree with what you're saying, but by that measure, then I would say, yeah, hardball tactics are appropriate in almost any negotiation. Like, this is
because you want to make sure that you aren't being taken advantage of.
Yeah, because I don't see that as being like rude or burning bridges just to say you have other offers, which is kind of how I took that. Like, hardball tactics to me seemed like you're pushing that boundary of possibly burning bridges. But yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. So, well, actually, what are we saying? Are we saying yes on the hardball tactics? As far as
I think yes to a certain extent, like not pushing it too far.
We'll say don't burn bridges.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you might need to come back to these investors in future rounds and hopefully, yeah. Discuss key takeaways. Now, I'll say this. I've got that other group starting, so I'm motivated to, but I'm just throwing that out there. Obviously,
That's fine.
No, I know you are. I let's see. What was I trying to do? Oh, acquisition values.
Discuss key takeaways. Terms allocate economic and control rights. Conflicting priorities of investors and entrepreneurs in upside and downside scenarios.
Honest.
Well, I'm pretty confused by the discuss key takeaways section here.
Sorry, I didn't read it.
Yeah. Well, some of it we've already
Yeah, we kind of talked
talked
about.
about, but some of them like.
Okay, we've actually covered a lot of these. Like terms
Yeah.
have a price, and that I think is most illustrated in that comparison of the two other VC firms, where you could see, oh, by giving us our two board members, we lost 15% ownership stake in the company. You know.
Yeah.
So you could see there was a trade-off. Conflicting priorities of investors and entrepreneurs and upside and downside scenarios. So just, yeah, depending on the situation with the company, who has more leverage. It's kind of my take on that.
Yeah. These are, and say as long as you just kind of talk about in the summary the things that we've already talked about, we'll cover all those sections.
Yeah, we'll do. All right. I guess
I messed with things.
Oh yeah, I'll let you.
I was trying to just give me like 2 seconds here, and then we can like.
Oh, check this out. Actually, I'm gonna try something. Watch this. Does that work?
Kind of, except I didn't want the other. I just wanted the acquisition values. I didn't set the other stuff up to mean anything.
Well, Brando, you should have said something before I did.
Gosh dang it.
Here I am trying to impress everyone.
What'd you just do? A screenshot thing or something? Clip it?
Snipping tool.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So,
just
yeah.
learned how to do that the other day. That's really cool.
Yeah,
So
it's so valuable.
now I'm going to do a precision snipping tool exactly to Brando specifications and try that again.
So picky.
I know. I am.
Is that what we're? No, I did the wrong one again, right?
No, that's
the right one.
That's it. You did the right one.
All right. Brando, I might have you jump in on that section because I was not following along as you were updating that.
Oh, okay.
All right. I guess if you guys are ready, shall we start our review?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen. Screen share, and then how do I make it so it sticks on my screen?
You just click on your icon at the bottom of the.
Which I think I've done. We're looking at infinity now, right?
Yeah. You've got yourself highlighted.
Okay. No. All right. So this begins the review process of week 8 for the Mumate case discussion. All right. So we'll start off right off the bat by saying we were feeling a little bit out of sorts going through these instructions, feeling like we missed something, an activity we were supposed to do, or perhaps there was some component of this that was related to an in-classroom version of this course. So, but we'll proceed from here as best we can. So first question, which team had the highest pre-money valuation, the lowest? Where did your team fall? We reviewed the various offers by the VC firms in the second component of the case study and noted Astoria Partners had the highest pre-money valuation. Choose the team that showed extremes in performance to ask what happened that led to the results. While discussing this, Brando walked us through his valuation process, which resulted in a significantly higher post-money valuation of $50 million, which he based I believe on projected future sales and industry average LTM sales valuation multipliers. Brando, any comments on that? Or
no, yeah, that's what I used.
Okay. So we next question: choose a student from the DPV side and ask what were your goals for this negotiation. The valuation of Mumate, we went with a $2.5 million post-money valuation. That's $2.5 million invested and a 20% ownership stake. We were completely confused on the internal rate of return of Y. We're not sure what Y is referring to. The board seats, though, we did have some varying ideas on the board seats, and Brando contributed an anecdote about fire department in Idaho and how they manage their board after merging with another fire district. We settled on this idea of a 5-person board, the 2 founders being represented, 2 DPV reps on the board as well, and then a Mumate, an independent representative suggested by Mumate, agreed upon by DPV. So a 5-person board. How important is this deal to DPV? Is it once in a lifetime, pretty good, or a pass? We think it's a pretty good deal. It's not once in a lifetime. It's right in sort of the normal range of what DPV is looking for as a good, solid investment. And as the next question says, does Mumate fit your investment focus? Yes, this is the exact type of company and the exact range that that DPV would be looking to invest in a portfolio company. Now it says choose a student from the Mumate side. Ask, did the co-founders see things the same way, or were you focused on other interests? Write down in order of importance these various factors. Of these factors, we ranked the terms of the deal as the most important factor. The board composition is the second most important factor. This came after a discussion where I had ranked pre-money valuation higher, but it was pointed out to me that board composition dictates the control of the company, voting stake and all that. So we rearranged that. The pre-money valuation came in third. Option pool came in fourth. How do differing priorities affect this type of negotiation? Who has the upper hand? DuPage or Mumate? We talked about the idea that how much money you need to grow can affect your priorities. If you're desperate for additional capital, that can put the power in the hands of those who have the capital. Alternatively, if you have a lot of options for acquiring capital, then the options or the leverage and the powers in the hands of the company itself. And in this case, we feel Mumate has a lot of different options, so they kind of hold the leverage and the upper hand in these negotiations. On the Mumate side, how did the Astoria and Prosper term sheets affect your negotiation strategy? What are the pros and cons of your various options here? With Astoria, we said the pros are high post-money valuation, lower VC ownership. The cons were demanding a new CEO and lacking funds. They were looking to raise additional funds for another fund or whatever, and that could create conflicting priorities. With Prosper, the pros, the 2 founders would both get seats on the board of directors. There'd be an additional $500,000 in upfront capital investment, or that initial investing round would be $500,000 more. The cons, Prosper would have a much larger equity stake in the company, and they're less experienced in this particular industry, so their insights and leadership might be lacking somewhat. With angels, there's less equity sacrificed to angel investors, and there's no demands for specific board compositions with angel investors, so they're a lot more flexible. But the cons are it can be time consuming to raise money through angel investors. It's not like a guaranteed route. They're not sending you offer sheets that you can just sign and get that money. You have to go out there and work for it, and you don't necessarily know if you're going to be able to materialize that cash. How did the VCs go about evaluating Mumate? We talked about DPV in the scenario we described earlier, looking to exit the company at $250 million. With a 30% stake in the company, they'd want to exit with $75 million. That's assuming 3 rounds of $2.5 million investment per round, with the equity share again of 30%. What other means did the VCs use to value the company? Share your spreadsheet and talk us through them. I guess, Brando, do you want to jump through that real quick?
Yeah, so this simple spreadsheet here was just showing they compared themselves a lot to Odwalla, Honest Tea, and Naked Juice. And so when we looked at their acquisition values. So basically, when the VCs would have exited with those companies, they had these values: Odwalla 182, Honest Tea 108, and Naked Juice 450. This is million. So we just took the average, which was, and rounded it up. That's how we got the $250 million exiting value.
Thanks, Brandon. All right. What have you learned about bargaining tactics? Should Mumate disclose that they have other offers? We, as a group, concluded that there was no reason they shouldn't disclose that they have other offers, though the specific terms in the offers they would likely not disclose to the various competing offers. Do hardball tactics make sense in negotiation like this? Yeah, to a certain extent, though we noted it's important not to burn any bridges, as you might be returning to some of these investors for future investing rounds. So, hardball tactics to an extent are okay. And discuss key takeaways. So terms allocate economic and control rights. Just noting the variances in the two terms between the competing VC firms, Prosper and Astoria. You could see the sort of contrasting valuations based off of the give and take in those offers. The conflicting priorities of investors and entrepreneurs on upside and downside scenarios. So just, again, whether it was DPV, Astoria, or Prosper, and then of course Mumate's own concerns, figuring out which of those holds the most sway obviously affects negotiations a ton. Terms have a price. Kind of going back to those different offer sheets, you could see, with the additional board seat and the additional $500,000 investment, Prosper took an additional 15% ownership stake in the company, whereas our offer takes a 5% less ownership stake in the company, but had some of its own trade-offs. And then the VC valuation techniques, we used the analysis Brando provided to come up with a variety of methods for evaluating the company, and we ranged from our 10 million to our 50 million valuations. So I think we have a lot of things to look out there. I don't know that that's something that I have a complete handle on, but certainly something we discussed a great deal in this conversation. And I think that concludes our review roundup and this meeting. All right. Yeah, I guess I'm going to stop the broadcast now, unless anyone advises that I do not or have something to add.
Do it.
All right.